it's been such a crazy time.
It's
And
live.
yeah, it's really been nuts.
I
So I
think
just,
we are live now. So,
are we?
hello everyone. Yeah. Welcome to Coffee Conversations today. Thank you so much for joining us from one more Gorongosa Coffee Conversation. I am your host. I am Dominique Gonc, and I manage the Elephant Ecology Project in Gorongosa. And today we are chatting with the founder and CEO of Outdoor Afro, Rue
Woo!
Mapp, which is an awarded inspirational leader, writer, speaker, public lands champion, and for me, a great friend and a very inspiring woman. So for the next half hour, we'll be sipping Gorongosa coffee, which I have here. And I have to say, today I'm drinking Elephants Never Forget. And we're going to talk about conservation leadership and the outdoors. So before we dive into that, let me remind you to put your questions in the comments and stay with us until the end to find out if you are one of the giveaway winners of a Gorongosa trio. Yeah. So
Awesome.
Rue, I won't talk too much because I want you to talk. But Outdoor Afro, wow. Outdoor Afro celebrates and inspires Black connections and leadership in nature, helping people take better care of themselves, their communities, and our planet. Through last year, I had the honor of, hearing you talking, and I remember being overwhelmed with emotions, with relief, with inspiration, so many things. So I would love for you to tell me again and the audience, what has inspired you to create Outdoor Afro?
Well, Outdoor Afro was a song on my heart back in 2009, where I wanted to share with the world, my relationship with the outdoors and the ways that my life had been transformed by those connections that started with my family. And something really beautiful happened back in 2009. Social media was very new. We didn't have a Facebook Live platform. It was just very much about posting whatever was on your mind, whatever you were having for lunch or whatever. And the algorithms were all nice and flat. And what happened was I was able from my kitchen table to have this conversation with people about my love for the outdoors. And people responded back to me and said, I love the outdoors too, and here's how. And that's when I knew that we had a visual representation problem, that we didn't see ourselves represented as beautiful, strong, and free in the outdoors. And Outdoor Afro became a platform to do something about that. And then as we moved along, sharing our stories and our blogs and our photographs and our videos, people wanted to connect with each other. And so that's when I decided to put together a leadership team informed by all the things that I'd been learning over the years. And that team started off as a group of 12 people. And each year it has grown. And today I'm really proud to say that the team has grown to 90 men and women, aged from early 20s through their 60s, from all kinds of professional backgrounds, but they have this like fire in their belly to connect people to nature. And so they stand up networks in 30 states, and our participation network is now about 40,000 people. So I'm just inspired every day by the way that we have really shared leadership in such a powerful way that it has sparked a movement and a conversation that is different than it was when we first started. And so when I said I wanted to start, I wanted to shift the visual representation of who we imagine gets outdoors, that shift has happened. And now we are in a very important moment in our history. I think a lot about the Berlin Wall falling down and just how iconic of a moment that was when things shifted permanently. And I think we are right now witnessing a permanent shift that helps us to understand the poison, the cancer, the violence of racism, and the effect it's had on every single human being on this planet. And so I'm just really thankful that I've always been doing the work to really lift up the Black story, the Black body, the Black experience in nature in an empowered way. And it makes, this moment makes my work feel more urgent than ever before. And I'm so glad to be doing this work with you. And thank you so much for having me. Just your spirit and work are incredibly inspirational to me too.
It's my pleasure. Oh, and Gorongo's also coffee, pleasure. But I have so many questions following up what you just said, but I want to go one step back and I want to know, what was the most amazing experience you had in nature?
Wow. I mean, there's so many. And sometimes we think about like big experiences have to be big landscapes, but for me, nature that I love is right in my own neighborhood. I walk a lot in my neighborhood. And the thing about your neighborhood is that it's where you are rooted, right? It's where you have the most intimate relationship, and it's the people in those neighborhoods. And so I take incredible pleasure in watching the gardens change over the seasons and the ways that people are connected to those gardens by what they've decided to plant or how they tend to those places. And so, and the wildlife is everywhere, right? Like you don't have to go to a preserve or a zoo to witness wildlife. Wildlife is everywhere. And so the thing that I can tell you about the story of going to the Arctic and having an Arctic grizzly in camp. I can tell you about, rock climbing on the Pacific Crest Trail and how transformative that was. I can tell you about taking, 60 men and women on the American River to whitewater raft who'd never rafted or ever camped before. I mean, my work is just chock full of experience. But I will say that a recent experience of going hiking with Oprah Winfrey.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's coming later.
Close to the top. Okay. I'm like, is this really happening? Am I really hiking with Oprah Winfrey? I'm hiking with Oprah Winfrey. But the thing about it, just to bring it all back to the neighborhood, I took Oprah Winfrey to my neighborhood park. I took her to a place that wasn't like this big iconic landscape. It was the place where I used to run cross country in high school, where I walked a rescue pit bull, where I helped my children learn how to walk, where I, took my, my former husband, on a picnic for Father's Day. It was a place that was very intimate to me. And I'm just, so thankful that the personal is professional when it comes to Outdoor Afro. There's no it's not like, Outdoor Afro is over there or nature is over there. It's this beautiful integration of life, of community, and of love.
Lovely. 2019 was the 10th anniversary of Outdoor Afro, right? Congratulations. You've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And Outdoor Afro is now recognized all over the place for, addressing the ongoing need for greater diversity in the outdoors. Even though it's so successful, I'd love to hear if Outdoor Afro faced some challenges until today. When you look back this decade, what are the challenges that you think that you're still facing as a CEO and founder?
Yeah, I mean, I feel incredibly privileged in this role because, what people, don't understand is that there's a business behind what we're doing. There's absolutely the inspiration that is so important to lift up in the stories of men and women who make it what it is. But there's like the day-to-day business, of paying people and giving them benefits and, employee handbooks and, so I'd say that the thing that I'm delighted to have had experience in, because Outdoor Afro was really like my third business. I've run business before, I've started things before, and that just helped me be able to do Outdoor Afro from a business and inspirational perspective. And so I think that it's just remains a constant challenge and opportunity to raise funds, to support and grow and nurture the work so that we have durability and that we're not, just out here, as purely a social media presence, that we actually have a chance of being around longer than me. That's the dream. The dream is actually for Outdoor Afro to have the kind of roots and infrastructure so that it's something that will be able to carry on in perpetuity.
Yeah, beautiful say. So what does I would love to know more, like, what does being in nature or in outdoors really means to you in these uncertain times?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really challenging, to think about everything right now in relation to my work because, like I said, it's personal, like I didn't even realize the effect it was having on me until 3 Fridays ago. I was having meetings and I was just crying through my meetings. And I was like, realizing that I had to attend to my own spirit in this moment, as well as lead this organization. And so I've really been spending a lot of time taking care of myself, because right now we're getting a lot of people who they want to pull their Black friends close. They want to pull their African American or Black, movements close. And sometimes that can be it can feel really extractive. It can feel like you gotta, and so I've just really have held the line for myself to take care of myself so that I can be there for my family, I can be there for my organization, and I can be in this conversation, in this movement for the long haul. But I think that, from kind of a broader stance, Outdoor Afro has always stood for Black bodies being strong, beautiful, and free in the outdoors, no matter where we're talking, whether it be on sidewalks, whether it be on public lands. And the reality is that Black people have not been free to move and roam and travel and explore in a way that has felt liberating and free and without the threat of danger or at minimum unwelcoming. And so Outdoor Afro really sits at the place of hospitality and lifting people up. And often, people going out, of course, in groups because they feel safer in groups than by themselves, especially going in their first outdoor experiences. So, this moment doesn't call for me to do anything different than what we've always done. And at the same time, it feels more urgent than ever before.
And how do you see the future? What are your hopes for Outdoor Afro and all the people that your work impacts so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about the future, as just this ever expanding opportunity for Outdoor Afro. I mean, there are definitely some real specific, hopes and dreams I have for this lifetime. Like one is for Outdoor Afro to really create a home place, like land for people to come and learn about connections to nature and find refuge and be totally, just wrapped in Black culture, from the art to the food we serve to the songs we sing, and really, have a place in nature that's racism free. And when I think about the goals, though, in the world, I feel like we're working hard toward the ordinary, right? Like having this moment where you look up and you see people outside recreating in proportion to their population and their opportunity, and it's no big deal. So it's not this big, ticker tape parade down Main Street, but it's the ordinary quiet moment, where there really is equity. And when you have that equity and opportunity and joy in the outdoors, that Black joy in the outdoors, that doesn't have to be, a conquest, but is just a given in life, then that is when I believe our work will be done.
Wow. So You know, there's probably people out there listening to our conversation right now and aspiring to do something
I hope
similar
so.
as you do. And so, what is your advice, regarding the path to become a leader in changing the face and the narrative of who engages in the outdoor? So, what would be your advice for some people who wants to do that too?
Well, I think it's really important for people to follow their passion, and I know that for me, I didn't do it for the money, but I did it because I knew that this was my true north. And your true north is not going to look like mine, it's not going to look like the next person's. But I think it's really important to, especially as we have the privilege now, like I think about now, like as a Black woman, I can lead a national organization in this field when, people like only two generations away from me didn't have this opportunity. They didn't have, the chance to have as wide of opportunities, to work. And so I think right now is a really important opportunity to embrace as we have more opportunities, and there are also more ways to share. Like right now, like you and I are using a platform that really didn't even exist in this way just 10 years ago.
Right.
So I want to just encourage, anyone coming online right now to embrace the technologies of the moment. I think a lot about Sojourner Truth. She's definitely like a guide for me when I think about how, she as an abolitionist, she embraced something that was really new in America at the time of her work. It was photography and the postal system. And you would think, okay, what's the big deal about that? Well, we're talking about like around, Civil War times and how people were able to literally transmit images via mail. So you could have a glimpse into another world for often the very first time, and in what felt like real time for people. And this woman, she had these cards with her picture on them. And she sold those cards as a way to fundraise for the mission of abolishing slavery. And there's a beautiful caption underneath the card, underneath her picture in the card. And it says, "I sell the shadow to support the substance." So she was using basically the social media of her time to share a message, but also to fundraise for her cause.
Right.
And I think that we have to think as innovatively as she did about how to sustain ourselves, use existing technologies, and follow your true path. And I also encourage people to get really specific, because Outdoor Afro is not general. We are very specific. And that specificity helps people to understand where you're coming from. Outdoor Afro, we could have been called people of color in the environment.
Exactly.
And that's like, everybody and nobody, everywhere and nowhere, and so you want people to really understand what you're doing, because you don't have a chance to, get into a big, long explanation about what you're doing and who you are. People have to be able to see and understand exactly what you're talking about. So get real specific, use the technologies, and follow your true passion within, those opportunities.
Right. Wow, great advices. I wanted to ask, have you ever been to the continent Africa?
I have not. I have not been invited.
But I know,
I have not been invited.
that in 2018, Outdoor Afro brought a group to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so right now, I want to extend an invitation to you and to Outdoor Afro to come and visit us in Gorongosa in Mozambique. So please, let's talk about this. Let's see how we can make that happen for you and for Outdoor Afro.
Well,
So,
it's nothing but a word, okay? Because I feel like I it's one of those lifetime pilgrimages for Black people in America to be able to go. And I've heard many times how transformative that experience is. And so I just think you're amazing, and that you can be the bridge builder for me, and that, perhaps I can be that for others as well.
Great. Well, it's lovely that it's just me and you talking, but people are asking questions. So let's go to the questions. The first one is from Jamie. He asks, why do you think it is so hard for some people to understand that environmental sustainability is a social and racial justice issue?
Well, because people, I feel, for the same reason that people don't see that they're even racist. So it's like, if you can't even see that you're racist, then you can't see how the world is shaped by racism. It's as simple as that. People make things way too complicated. The reason why, you see, maybe less people in certain areas in the outdoors, because historically, maybe people were excluded from those places. Like in this country, we had Jim Crow. That meant you could not go. You could not go to that beach. You couldn't go to that park. You couldn't go to that public land. And now all of a sudden, we want to talk about diversity. We want to talk about everybody's welcome. Well, we don't have generational awareness and practice of that welcoming because of racism. So until people really get clear about the effects of racism and how it has been codified in our way of life, then, they're not going to get that. It's as simple as that. And as long as we're pointing to racism being something over there that someone else has the problem of and we don't, and that we're not affected by it, it's going to be really hard for those concepts to take root.
Yeah. Good. The other question is from Kathy. Kathy asks, what are the most important things that outdoor recreation providers do to remove barriers to full participation?
Well, I think outdoor recreation providers need to recognize that people are fully participating in the outdoors already in their own way, right? Like my dad, my family, we never did, professionally curated events, but they were absolutely connected to nature. So I think it's important for people to recognize and respect the ways that people are already getting out, whether it be they're fishing with their grandfather or in their mother's gardens, planting things, going for walks around your local park or lake. People are recreating. And I really want to, keep us in this asset-based conversation to recognize the way that people are doing these things and invite people to build on what they're already doing, and to talk about communities in a way that respects that they have assets and they are empowered and they're already doing it. I think because we haven't seen it in the mainstream, and this is why visual representation is important, because I know a lot of Black people who do a lot of different things outside of Outdoor Afro, never even heard of Outdoor Afro, and they're going to always do it. And so we really have to decenter programs, and we have to really decenter whiteness as a way of introducing the outdoors to communities that are already engaged. Let's build on it.
Cool. We have two more questions through. Another question is from Andrea. She asks, what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest reward in building Outdoor Afro?
Well, I think we covered that earlier. Yeah. We were talking about the biggest challenge, is building the business of Outdoor Afro, and that's the board and staff and, and really creating something that's solid, and not just like a social media conversation. And so evolving from just something that was an idea to an organization, it took a lot of time and investment behind the scenes. It's almost like, when you see a duck on a pond, or a lake, and it's just gliding. Yeah. And underneath it's going like this. Right. Like Outdoor Afro is. Right.
Suddenly.
It's like riding like anyway, but the other thing about it that's super rewarding is that I get to be all the parts of who I am, right? I can show up as all of me, because so often in the work that we do, we have to leave something at the door. We have to nobody can't be too black. You can't talk about your kids. You can't love nature. You can't be, a computer geek, can't be an activist. So we have the chance with Outdoor Afro for me and everybody who's a part of it to be all of who they are. My staff, my volunteers, my partners, everybody gets to show up as who they are. And that for me means that Outdoor Afro gives me back more than it takes away. And that means I have more energy. I have more just capacity, to do this work because it really is healing for me.
I forgot to mention, you're also a great cook. I've seen some of your videos. Oh my God, I have to say, looks really good. Looks amazing. I've been following some of your videos. Yeah.
Yeah, my big thing, I think this year I had a breakthrough in pasta making. That was this year where I've really gotten into like making pasta, making ravioli, and it's so easy. Like once you make fresh pasta, like you're just never gonna buy or want to have like dry packaged pasta like ever again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
okay. All right. And the last question is from Gregory. He says, so I would love to hear you talk about your work as a National Geographic Fellow, Education Fellow. We didn't mention that, but you are also National Geographic Society Fellow.
Yeah.
And how your work is reflected via this platform. How does your work is reflected?
Yeah, I mean, being in Nat Geo Education Fellow has been, one of those surprising and most rewarding opportunities I've had also in recent years, in the way that, and Nat Geo is so iconic. Like we've all grown up in Nat Geo, in some way. And I felt just so deeply honored to be seen and recognized. And Nat Geo is doing a really great job of really understanding its place in this conversation around equity and inclusion and the visual representation that they've traditionally had of Black people depicted in nature, and their need to do better by that. And having that viewpoint made it so easy for me to link in and really help with a genuine exchange of thought, an exchange of ideas. I learned a lot as a Nat Geo Fellow, but I also felt that they gave me a platform to be a teacher for them in a way that felt really productive and not extractive. And man, I mean, being on that Nat Geo stage to present the work of Outdoor Afro was an incredible honor, and to do so alongside amazing people like you was really, I mean, we had that workshop that was phenomenal. I mean, we had just so much leadership training and development as part of our, because Nat Geo wants you to be successful, and so I felt like they gave me some pretty amazing tools to further my development as a leader.
And I have to say, let's just say hello to our fellows, Matt and everyone else that might be watching. We miss you. Hope you're well and doing great. So I think it's about time that we have to close. So I'm going to ask, do you have a question for me? Otherwise, I'll announce the... Yeah. Oh, go for it.
What's the last book you read?
Oh my God. The last book I read was, where is that? It's The Moment of Lift. It's actually here, if I can get it. It's this one from Melinda Gates.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. I love it.
And I'm about to start Becoming Wild, that I just got a few weeks ago. Anyway, and what was your last book?
My last book was a collection of short stories, and it's called The Heads of the Colored People. Okay. Yeah, and it's super. It's by Nafisa Thompson Spires, and it had just a lot of. I mean, I'm a big fan of short stories, because you just
Mm-hmm.
get in and get out. It keeps me reading when I feel like I
Yeah.
don't have time. But the Heads of Colored People,
Okay. Should I
I would,
check?
yeah,
Recommend? Huh?
yes, recommend.
Cool. Thank you. I will check. So let me announce that the winner of today's Gorongosa Coffee Trio is Kathy. You're the winner. Congratulations. And thank you so much, to join me and to answer, ask questions and everything, and everyone else. I have to say, it's time for us to say goodbye, but I first want to say, hello and keep strong, keep safe to all my colleagues from Gorongosa National Park, wherever you are, and a big hug to my friends and colleagues. And I don't know, Ruth, do you have anyone you want to say hello, or any last thing you want to say about Outdoor Afro or anything?
Well, I just welcome everybody into the Outdoor Afro family. You don't have to have an afro to
To
be
be
a part
part.
of it.
I know that.
But no, I just want to thank my leaders, my staff, and the creator, for giving us this moment in time for us to show up in all the parts of who we are. And thank you, Ngozi Coffee, and thank you, Dominique. And I appreciate our friendship so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, to supporting also us to being here and talking. And I'm a big fan. You're a great role model for me. So we keep in touch. And as I said, you and Outdoor Afro are invited to Gorongosa. So let's talk about that.
Let's do
So
it.
let's do it. So I have to say bye. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Oh,